so much to me. It means so much to you, and so thank you. I hope you loved it.
It was great. And Jordan, I read an interview with you where you said
we knew we needed the literal dream team. You know, I wrote a script that had a bunch of things that my collaborators here some of them were quick to point out were not possible. But the spirit of this thing, and I think what attracted these guys to the project was we were not going to kind of take that as an answer. And so, you know, I'm talking about things like, you know, when I wrote the script, I had, you know, OJ out there in the middle of the night, experiencing this vast night, and, you know, the great Hoyte van Hoytema, you know, he instantly, you know, identified, you know, Jordan, there's a reason you don't see this in film. You can only, I'm just gonna be doing his Dutch accent all night. You can only afford so much light, you know? And I'm thinking, try me, like, let's go. But no, he, you know, so he developed a plan and a way of figuring it out. And I'm sure you can talk about that more, but that's something true of all of these collaborators, is that they really took the impossible and took the adventure of trying to get that impossible shot. And so the whole project was super meta the whole time because we were on the same path as our characters.
well, I almost, you know, I know his name is Abels, but is he really playing Clay?
Okay, it's not a coincidence. There's so much of this project came about from this collaboration and from the synergy, and so yeah, one of the first things we did, we got Michael Wincott, you know, on to play Holes. We said, okay, Michael, you know, you're gonna get to go meet with like the real deal. Like this character is like world-renowned cinematographer. This is the guy, and so we sent him over to Hoyte.
He came to Panavision. Jordan sent him to our camera prep room. We always prepare cameras in this big camera rental company, and we always nerd around, and it's always a lot of technology, and we're always playing around with lenses, and then we thought, oh, we're gonna show him the technology, and we're gonna really get him, you know, to know what we're working with, and we came there, and for the first 2 hours he was, you know, really enthusiastic, and he was taking notes and really trying to grasp what we were doing, and then after like 2 hours he started to sort of get a little bit bored of our talks. And then at some point he just came to me and said, oh, this scarf, that's good.
So it did kind of become this totem, right? Did he get your actual scarf?
He tried to imitate me, but I also learned to very much imitate him, I think.
We talked with Hoyte. We talked about the photography as very much as being a character as well, not just because we had a cinematographer in as a character in the film, but you know, we wanted to imitate this sense of not being able to capture it all, of it being impossible, and so yeah, Hoyte was just and his team, who are basically like the Navy SEALs of like camera teams. They're just badasses. Like holy shit. Like, and so you know, they just were able to get the impossible shot while making it look like it was not possible to get it. It was very fast, very fantastic.
Well, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Day for Night is in itself nothing really new in Hollywood tradition. It's done a lot throughout history and for reason that when you're out in nature, there is no available light at night, or there's very little light available that our cameras today are not really able to capture. So to see what we wanted to see during the night, we kind of automatically had to, dig into this day for night technology. The only thing is that none of us really felt that look of day for night was really right for this film. Day for night is not always credible, or doesn't have that very specific feel that we needed, as well as it's very unpractical because it works in very specific light circumstances, and in other light circumstances it doesn't work at all. So we had to come up with some new sort of technology, which I think we did, and I think we were building new devices, and we were repurposing old rigs and engineered with lenses and different kind of cameras and different kind of chips, and it became a whole sort of high school project for us.
And it's so big. It's like he used infrared light. He captured he used two cameras at the same time. Look, am I giving away secrets? That
No. You're giving them away, but the technology is based on the fact that an infrared camera during the day sees a very different set of information than a conventional camera, and that differentiation between those two images and differentiation between the different light relationships, you could say, was what helped us very much to tune the relationship between lightness and darkness the way we needed it to be. Also, we started, overall in general, we started studying very much, or trying to figure out how does the human eye see and what does it see during the night, what is bright and what is dark, and not as much in a conventional film way, but really in a very visceral sort of real life way.
Yes,
the way you perceive colors, etc., etc.
So basically, so if it's not clear, it's like 80% of the stuff that you see that's at night was actually shot at noon. It's like daytime when we shot it. But because he's capturing this information, that kind of brings Guillaume, Rocheron, our VFX master, into the picture, where the interpretation of this this information, Hoyte's talking about, we put it together, or you and your team put it together in such a way that it's replicating the dilation of your pupils when you're at night out there, and you can kind of see. That's not in any other film. Just to say, the wizardry of what these guys kind of put together for me, it was inspiring the whole way.
It was certainly a very interesting science project for us as well, and a bit of a leap of faith as well, because as you said, it was like noon, and we're like, hey, we're shooting a nighttime scene right now. I think the rig that Hoyte engineered is like a marvel of precision and engineering, and for us, we basically took that great footage that was perfectly balanced and synchronized, and engineered our own ways to kind of put it together in a way that would take the infrared and the color and make it feel like a night the way the human eye would see. Just the way it was assembled is like you can't do that without like a lot of trust and a great collaboration, because it is a leap of faith. It's like you don't know 100%, if it's ever going to work.
Yeah, and that's 100% true for me in relationship to these guys as well, right? Because it is a high school project, or it's a crazy fake idea, and it's like you come and you say, I have this idea, and it involves these elements and these screws and these nuts and all these cameras, and it's the invitation to become a really big money pit.
It really could have gone so wrong. It could have gone so wrong, but that was also the spirit of the thing, and also, you described his theory in such a way where I got it, and I did feel like some amazing artists could use that in some way. So we didn't know what we get, but we also knew, we also knew what Day for Night was, and the thing made sense.
Yeah. But it definitely needed a champion, it needed, a champion both financially and faith-wise, it could have died very quickly.
It also feels like if anyone had an uncanny feeling watching those sequences, it's because it felt so, I presume because it felt so truthful to how you actually see if you're used to coming in here and seeing a suspension of disbelief, the kinds of tricks and tropes you've been accustomed to for so long. So it felt like when we were first looking at some of those completed shots, it felt wrong in how right it felt. Like wrong for cinema, right for reality. And I think there's an intrinsic uncanny effect to that.
Yeah, well, it's funny, I was art directed Scott.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of came from, the realization that, revealing a creature in kind of scary and playful ways is always better when you don't see everything. And, because our creature happens to be in the sky, we wanted to basically control how the sky would be so the audience, would watch it and be like, is there something here? Did I see something? Is there a shadow? Is there, and so, it becomes your playground a little bit, and, as you said, it's, for us, it was really important that hopefully none of you noticed that, it was not real for most of the film. Because it was really important, if you watch it and you're like, oh, fake sky, something's gonna happen, then, you kind of break, the suspense and the illusion, so.
It's another thing, you immediately realize why there's not a lot of UFO films, because the sky always changes, which is continuity nightmare, right? It's a nightmare. And so, very early on, we realized that we were going to need a bigger boat.
Right, I'm glad you used the bigger boat reference because I think the sky in this movie is sort of like the ocean in Jaws, and the cloud, jean jacket is kind of like the shark fin or something that you see. And so much of what's great about that too comes from the music and the sound design. I mean, the sound design is incredible. Well, but actually both. One of the things I love about this movie too is it inspires.
Well, Michael Abels is my, I call you my composer, but that's not, you're your composer, I guess. And I'm your director, I guess, or something, anyway. But yes, I've worked with him for 3 films, and this was the first of the 3 that I felt like I walked in and I said, Michael, I know it has to be different and novel and new, just like the other ones. But this time I don't know even how to describe it in the beginning.
I always felt like you had a clear, you always give me like really clear themes of what the film's about. And then you invite me to, you turn me loose, and I love that because you genuinely seek collaboration. You want, I always feel from you that like any good idea could stand the challenge of another good idea. Like it seems to me like to you that's the test of a good idea, if it can exist with another good idea. So so a lot of times when I write stuff for you, I don't even tell you what scene I think it goes in, because I like you wrote it, so you would know where if it's going to go in the film. and I like seeing how you move the music around. It helps me learn about the heart of the film and how you're seeing the characters. So.
And then in turn, working with him as I'm working on the process, are the filmmakers here? By the way, oh, good. Okay, cool. Yeah, so while we're, working on the process, I'm having him develop emotional escapes, things that I know that we're going to be sort of visiting and revisiting, but it's really about the emotion, and he'll he'll bring me something that is sort of better and more interesting than what I've been picturing, and it will, of course, greatly inform how I'm picturing the film in my mind, you know. So it really is this conversation that is pretty extensive when it all comes down to it. We have a lot of back and forth, a lot of conversation, but then at the end, it just like the other ones, it comes together and feels like it's kind of meant to be. And the other thing I want to say about this score that I love that Michael brought out more of a sincere heart in me. Even though there's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek fucking sweeping Western, like, you know, thing to it where, you know, there's a satirical element, but I feel like he accessed a sense of earnestness that I'm just proud to have in this film, and I didn't know I had in me.
And then, how does the sound design?
Okay, so Johnny Byrne, right? So we're in our, like, you know, filmmaking dream team conversation, Ian and I, right? It's like, and Johnny Byrne, like, you know, he did Under the Skin, you know, he's like Yorgos guy. So he's like kind of like a rock star in our heads, you know, it's this kind of thing. Went and met him, you know.
Enough already.
And it was kind of, I started talking about the monster first and foremost, and that this sort of responsibility of how we're going to portray this thing. And, you know, we knew it had to be, you know, as much implication as we could possibly stand without seeing it, you know. And so we started talking about wind, and Johnny, like, he whips out this menagerie of wind sounds. It's like, go like this. And like, fucking chim chim chimree.
Hey, what's that one?
I'm sorry, that just took all the gravitas of it. No, but
This is a serious panel, Mr. Peele. But no, I think it was creating the kind of credible space. You know, it had to be real, didn't it? And so we wanted to make something that, so the score was the emotion, as you were saying, and we were making sure that we had something that was a really, you know, if you believed it happened, it happened. And so that was a large part of the role of the sound, and then the other part was to guide you through the beginning to unfold the learning of there's something in the sky. What is it? Is it just wind? And then, you know, halfway through the film, you're like, oh my goodness, I've been hearing something awful all along. And yeah, as you say, I mean, this sound should have a warning. It stays with you, doesn't it? So that's my favorite sides.
Yeah, I love the way that, like, you know, there are scenes where you think you're. What were some of the new challenges having to mount a production of this scale?
I mean, so many, it was staggering. I mean, in a way, it's all the same amount of things. It's just the priority shift, and things that are the hardest thing come to light, and those are the things that you just need to get ahead of so far in advance. And we really benefited, as you can kind of hear, from the fact that we were in soft prep. Because of COVID, we were in soft prep for so long, and it enabled all of these guys to collaborate for a much longer amount of time than you're typically afforded. And it's probably gonna be really hard to go back to the old model after that. But I think in a way, you know, this was a small producing team. It was just me and Jordan, and it felt like, in a way that made it easier because we knew exactly what we wanted to do, and our shorthand is the same. So we kind of could just get right to the meat of our intentionality and the priorities super quickly, and divide and conquer as to who had to triage what at any given time. So it was pretty slick in that way, but just a lot to deal with. Yeah.
I'm curious, you know, I read that you guys have been friends basically since you were teenagers. So, what is how is a movie like this informed by the kind of stuff you guys were watching when you were young? I mean, is this kind of natural evolution of your friendship and talking about movies for 30 years?
yes, so, I mean, basically, we grew up in New York, grew up on Upper West Side, he was down in Soho. We met in high school, and we were, you know, thick as thieves. And while everyone else was kind of out being cool, we were sort of figuring out a system to figure out what VHS we were gonna watch. For like way too long, way too late. We were like 13-year-olds at 18, that was our sort of. But we share this love and this passionate, this kind of vocabulary, just like you have with your best movie friend. And so that's another part of this dream team element, is that, at the very top of this thing, and Ian is, somebody who, I've always known, I moved here earlier, but I've always sort of had faith in his ability as a producer. And with this one, he exceeded my, my hopes and dreams by like holding shit down on this very, very difficult thing. And at the very core of it is our ability to be like, okay, man, you fucking know that Anthony Kiedis moment in Point Break, okay, let's let that go, it's like, we have the shorthand.
I think we have time for
The whole soundscape?
I think it's for the film sense, the analog sense versus the digital.
For those of you who are in the back and couldn't hear, the question was for Johnnie Burr. It was about how he creates the soundscape for the analog version of this, for like the 70mm print.
Yeah, so it's the same process. It's the same physical sound that we make for the Dolby Atmos, the IMAX version, and we go through a process of listening to it in the format that it will be, as in the analog print, which will be a 5:1 version of the film. And we'll just listen to that and make minor adjustments to allow for the variation that happens with analog. So it's like, yeah, it's another day of listening to the film. Yeah. Does that answer it?
And like, where did the transformation come from?
The notion that the creature was going to transform was very, very early on. This idea that we were gonna have a reveal that was going to fulfill the patience I'm asking in the first kind of half of the film, and fulfill this idea that Jean Jacket, kind of like many birds or deep sea animals, uses its spectacularness. So we knew from the very beginning that there was going to be a beauty, that there's going to be an awe-inspiring nature to Jean Jacket. A lot of the work that we did, and really everybody here played a part in defining this monster as it developed over the course of creating the thing. Everybody's voice, Johnnie, literally the sound of the wind and that the creature makes. Guillaume operating obviously with not only with integrating the actual practical dust that we were just kicking up with the helicopter in that final act, integrating that with this visual effect and actually depicting the creature. Michael Abels is the soul of the film, and composed the thing. And so as he's developing that, that's informing all of us the entire time as to more of what we understand this creature to be. Hoyte is kind of everything but the creature, in a way. He is the how adept Jean Jacket is at not being caught. Is the sort of spirit and also the of course the pursuit and the spirit of the characters. So it's this long process, and a lot of what we're doing is focusing from that point forward, from that first notion that this flying saucer is going to turn into an animal. From that point forward, we're like, okay, how can we make it make physical sense? First and foremost, if we can make this thing work and the audience buy it in a physical sense, then we have something that either evolution or divine design could create. And so then we just we follow that path, and that's how we get Jean Jacket.
you know, you're saying that Michael's score is the soul of the movie, and I have to say, I think the scores for Get Out, Us, and Nope, I mean, I think those are the three best horror scores of the last 25 years. I mean, hopefully I really think, so I'm going to ask a really silly question, Michael, which is, what makes a score scary? Because your music is terrifying in these movies. I mean, what have you learned about scoring horror movies? That, you know, what are the sort of, you know, tricks of the trade?
Well, the very first time Jordan and I met, we had a conversation about what is scary. You know, what's the sound of, and my memory of it was just that it was the unknown. And so there's always an element of something that sounds unknown, but also sounds alive, you know, not repetitive things that could be mechanical are not scary, like the thing that just happens a little randomly. So there's always, in the score note, there's some controlled random music, called aleatoric music, which means in a general sense, like, you get to play whatever you want. But you don't really, because you gotta play it at a certain volume and in a certain pitch range and a certain time, and it gets faster or slower. So in putting elements like that in, you get the sense that there's something that's alive. And when you don't know what that is, that's scary.
The question was, as a writer, what was the favorite scene to write? And as a director, what was the hardest scene to shoot?
All right, favorite scene to write was, I know that when I got to that Gordy stuff, it was one of the few times where I feel like I wrote a few pages that I never really, I almost didn't change, and it kind of it flowed out. And so that was super fun, because it felt like I was a viewer of the thing, you know, and anybody who's a writer knows that when it's fun, that's what it feels like. So that would be that. And the hardest to direct, man, the whole thing was very hard. It was very hard. Nothing can. Okay, there was a day where that was probably the most punishing for my crew, which was in terms of punishing for me, but we had to get up on top of that hill, and it was hot. And so that sucked.
Well, I feel like I can talk to you guys all night about this, but I'm getting the signal that it's time to wrap up. So thank you so much, and thank you, Jordan.